Welcome to the She Persists podcast. I'm so glad you're here. I'm your host, Emma Zurine. On this show, I'll be interviewing young girls who are still finding their place and direction in a STEM field that they love. Each week will be a new girl featuring a new story where we talk about the highs and lows, the experiences they've had, the lessons they've learned along the way, and advice they'd give to other young girls who share a similar passion. Today, I'm so excited to be speaking with Londyn Franklin, who's about to begin her undergraduate journey in Aerospace Engineering at the University of Texas at Austin. Before even stepping foot on a college campus, she's already accomplished incredible things like interning with NASA, Bell Flight, and Southwest Airlines. In our conversation, Londyn shares how she navigated high school internships, the challenges she faced, how she overcame them, and how she's thinking about the future, not just in terms of titles or degrees, but in terms of the difference that she hopes to make. Londyn's story is a reminder of what's possible when talent meets determination, and how persistence really does shape our futures. So with that, let's get into it. Here's Londyn Franklin. I'm so excited you're here. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I've been looking forward to this conversation because everything you've done and your journey has just been so incredible. I have so many questions about your work, the internships you've done, the zero-G flight that you're a part of. But before we get started with all of that, I just want to ask, what sparked your first interest in aerospace engineering?
Aerospace engineering, I didn't really know if I wanted to go into that immediately. It was more of a navigated towards that because I had an interest in rocketry. And so, because I like space sciences and I like rocketry, I knew I didn't really want to do engineering in any other field. Like, I wouldn't want to go work with cars or work with a bow or the streets and none of those like chemical or electrical. And I really liked the research part of engineering too. So, I knew that getting a broader degree like mechanical wasn't going to be the best suited for me because I need something more tailored. So I went ahead and did aerospace because it just encompassed all of the stuff that I like to do.
So you mentioned that you like space sciences. How did you really get into that? What sparked that interest?
So in sixth grade, I was in a class. It was a robotics class, and we always had sci-fi conversations and talking about the universe and all of those different things. So from there, curiosity just really grew and blossomed, and I took it into high school. And in high school, I got to learn more about space sciences and rocketry, propulsion for us, and take some of those classes like physics, calculus that really go hand in hand. And the passion just developed slowly over time and really drew me into that specific niche of rocketry. Just human exploration in general, I would say, was the biggest, like, wow, this is amazing. So not only just building a rocket, but also the mission aspect and the research aspect and the possibilities and all of the brains that it takes to get you to one place.
I love starting with that question just because everyone's story is always so unique. And it's amazing to hear what sparked that initial interest. And now you are where you are today, and you've done so many amazing things in that field. Did you do anything in high school that was focused on rocketry or focused on aerospace particularly?
Did. I started a club. So I would say that's the biggest, like, oh, wow. My club is called Martin Aeronautical Rocketry Society. I came to one of my favorite teachers. His name is Mr. Og. And I was like, hey, Mr. Og, you're going to be the sponsor of my club. And he was like, "Well, okay." So, yeah, he's amazing. He always supports all of my ideas. So it wasn't really a surprise to me or to him that he said yes to it. So in sophomore year, I got all the paperwork. I bugged every single like lead because they were taking forever to get back to me about what to do for starting a club. And I was like, okay, guys, I'm not gonna do the workaround that you're giving me. Like, go talk to this person. Go talk to. I have to bug you until you figure out what I'm supposed to do. So I went and talked to somebody, and I finally got all the paperwork submitted. We had our club meeting where we sat and we talked about what I wanted this club to look like, what was the purpose of this club, and all of those different things. From there, I went and created this foundation, and then it was getting all of the members and all the other kids interested, and then going to build a rocket. In the first year, it was a year. We had a rocket, and we called our rocket Scuffnik after Sputnik because it was very scuffy, very scrappy. It was made out of different kit parts. Yeah, it like put on its side and shattered a couple times. That year was like, if you were to like really understand what a prototype is, that would be the prototype year, like genuinely a prototype. The next year was a lot more structured, a lot more expertise involved. We reached out to a lot more people, built a really solid rocket that we flew. And it was a great competition year and amazing experience. And it just was eye opening because I got to create a space and see that space blossom that wasn't there before when I got there, to be able to house these creative minds and really get them to flourish and to make a community and a school that wasn't already there for rocket science. My school was great at STEM in general. We had a lot of biomed clubs, we had robotics, but one of the things I like about aerospace, and one of the things that's a little bit difficult when it comes to the clubs, is really niche. You can join robotics and you can join all of the different clubs and things, but they don't really hit that niche of aerospace. They don't really talk about thrusts. They don't talk about how to build a rocket. They don't, the rocketry part, or even just the space science in general. I mean, it gives you the base foundation, but it doesn't get as niche as you want it to be.
I totally agree with that. For me, I just very recently discovered my love for aerospace. I've always loved engineering. I loved robotics, but it's really hard to find that niche aspect of aerospace just because it doesn't fit into a lot of different categories that already exist. So it's really cool to find that interest. So tell me a little bit more about your club. How did you guys go about building an entire rocket as a high school team?
So the first year was pure determination and grit. We should not have got a rocket up in the air based off the challenges that we had. One of the biggest challenges was funding. And actually, my first year, I put a lot of my own money into my club so that it could thrive and get that boost that it needed to become a club that people wanted to be a part of. And so it took a lot of late nights in our schools. We have like a little bit of makerspace, but a lot of it was in one of our teammates' garage spaces, their own little makerspace at their house. Like from right after school to like 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night. And a lot of working, a lot of grit, a lot of making pieces to go on this rocket because the kit that we originally bought was for smaller powered rockets, and we needed to build more higher powered rockets. So we had to really make the parts fit, make them work. And so it was a lot of work in that aspect, but the determination and the resilience that I seen from my team was just something that was truly amazing. And honestly, that's kind of how we got it up the first year. It was pure close your eyes, cross your fingers, and hit the buttons. Please, please, please go up. And so the next year, it was so much better. We had a lot more participants that were interested because the first year we started halfway through the year. And then this time we had our full year. So we had people that were interested, a lot of freshmen and sophomores. And then we had a preliminary design, which is something we didn't have the first year. We started putting things together. And so we were able to buy the correct parts and we were able to, assemble something that was nice, sound, and it lasted the whole competition season because the first one, it's only in memory. We do not have it anymore. So having the rocket now is even just a great representation of the resilience of the team to go from you competing a whole season and you don't even have anything to really show for it to now competing and you have your final product to put on the table when it comes around to try to recruit more freshmen during our freshman orientation. So it was a bittersweet moment to leave it behind this year. Well, last year because I graduated. So it was like handing it off, but I know that the president there now is going to do an amazing job. She's been my vice president since I started it with me from beginning to end. And she is now a senior this year. Also a bittersweet moment there because it was like, oh my gosh, you're a senior. But yeah, that's how we did it. A good team that was determined, driven, and resilient. And all of we shared a common goal to get the rocket into the air.
I love that you were able to create that space for so many people who might not have had the opportunity to explore aerospace otherwise. Especially what I'm hearing from you is your team had a lot of passion for what they were doing. Just them really being able to pursue that is great. So I know you've done internships at NASA, places like Bell Flight. How did you go about that? What was that process for you?
Okay, so I did C's, NASA STEM Enhancement or Science. That's what C stands for. And it was a really foundational moments. And I'm going to do a shameless promo here for C's because I would not be where I am without it, truly. And a lot of people think that's very cliche. It's like, you are your own person, but C's was my rock, the foundation of giving me that confidence to go and pursue those future endeavors. So C's was a 2-week internship at the University of Texas at Austin's campus. I met a lot of people that I'm still friends with, and one that I'm actually going to school with in this fall. So that was really cool. And there, I worked on the TASER team, so Texas Atmospheric Space Research Team, and we did high altitude ballooning, conducted real research, worked with a lot of NASA scientists and professionals, professors, all of those very high, knowledgeable people. And in that time, it was very like felt a sense of a little bit of imposter syndrome because when I was there, I was like around so many people who had done quite a bit of STEM endeavors. And at that time, I had done a little bit. I was in robotics, some of that. But one of the reasons that I started my club was it wasn't as niche as I wanted to be. I wasn't very like very knowledgeable in the space sciences and things in terms of technical matter. In C's, I got to like do a whole bunch of things that really built my confidence. I did research. I presented at AGU, which that's been a while ago for me. I presented at GU, I think it was 2023, so now almost 2 years. And so from there, it was going and allowing me to feel that confidence and pursue other opportunities. So I came back from C's and I came to school and I was a whole different person. And when I mean a whole different person, I had so much confidence. And so I went to school and I made a name for myself. I went after every opportunity that was there. I like, hit the ground running with my club. That was the year that we got it on the ground. I was able to be my STEM leadership co-chair. Got to I got to do a lot with Seeds after that too. We went to an Osiris Rex reveal, and then we had my Zero G project. And then after that, after I had done all these things, because Seeds gave me that confidence in myself, I then was like, okay, I'm gonna apply to Southwest and try to get this job this summer. And so I got the job, and it was amazing. And one of the things that I talked about in my interview was Seeds, and talked about my Rocket Club and some of those, like all of the things that I talked about in that interview to land that job, all come back around the Seas. So after having that experience at Southwest, I then knew that I really liked interning. And so after that summer, I went and I interned through my school's internship pipeline. So they do a thing where you can go to school for 2 class periods, then the other 2 class periods you go to work. And then I worked at Bell Flight, which is informally known as Bell Helicopter, what most people may know it as if they're familiar with it. And so I've worked there now for almost a year. Yeah, and so my biggest thing about how I was able to get these positions, and somebody when he asked me like what made you stand out, was every time I do an interview and I get the job, I go and I ask the recruiters, what was it? Like, what in the interview sold it? And that is something that I advise everybody to do because that interview won't be your last interview. You will have interviews after that. So you need to know what was it that made you stand out? What was it that made you say, I want you at this company? And a lot of times, both times, it was passion. It was when I got on the interview and I came through with so much vibrance and very passionate about wanting this role. And while I was qualified for this role, and passion in your outside activities that show that you are not only passionate about this because you want this job, you want this role at this company, but because you're passionate in everything else that you do outside. So for me, it was Mars. I was in the height of the season for my rocket club when I did that interview. I actually had the interview and then I had a rocket lunch right after that. And I told them about that on the interview because we had to do a virtual one because I couldn't make it to the in-person session. So I was like, yeah, I'm like right now, immediately after this interview, I'm gonna go launch a rocket with my team and we're crossing our fingers it goes well because it's really the only thing getting this rocket up today is pure luck. And luck is what we had that day. So it was just the ability to convey the passion to these employers and to make them understand that I'm coming to your company with skills and abilities, but I'm also coming because I love this job. I love what this position is offering, and I love the aspects of all of it.
Yeah, I really love the advice that you just gave. I think That's such an important thing to keep in mind that there really is a selling point in your interview or in an application that makes a recruiter want you on their team. And I think just knowing that aspect of what made you stand out from everyone else is so important. So I just want to ask, out of all three of these internships you've done, do you have a specific project that was your favorite or that really stuck with you throughout these years?
Just gonna go back to C's again. So I had the opportunity to experience weightlessness on a zero gravity flight, and it was one of the most life changing experiences because of the nature of the project. Zero G was actually an extension of C's, so a little bit of a background for people who don't know. When I went to C's, we were the experimental year, I guess you could say, of the zero G projects. They had a grant and they used their grant money to buy for zero gravity tickets and select four different proposed experiments to fly aboard this aircraft. And at C's, this was only for the on site interns. And in my year, we had 98 interns. We were all set in this room and they were like, okay, guys, this is a project that we're going to give you to do if you want to participate. So it was optional, but I mean, who wouldn't give it a shot? So a lot of people applied. And so I remember brainstorming, and this is another time that I felt imposter syndrome. And you might be like crazy because you got it. But one time we had a night and the scientist was on the computer and he was basically like, come and ask me questions night. And there were people giving out some brilliant experimenting things. And I was like, yeah, go ahead and close this computer. I'm not getting this. I'm done. But the project that I proposed was examining the effects of polymers, specifically superabsorbent polymers. So what you see in baby diapers, it's like that fluff, and seeing if that polymer, the superzone polymer called SAPs, could be effective in attenuating radiation, or in simpler terms, blocking radiation in a sense, or absorbing it and deflecting it so that not enough harmful dose would come through and get in contact with the astronaut. So pretty complex experiment that I was trying to do, but the process of it wasn't really complex. So I was one of the really good parts about it. But it was such an amazing experience because one, I got to propose a research experiment. And then I got to go through a selection process and get it approved. And then after that, I got to go through almost, it was about, I would say, 6 to 7 months of reviewing, getting it approved again, going through all the nitty gritty, writing up all of the parts you're going to do, getting supplies, contacting people, very independent project. And then I got to go conduct this experiment, but not only in a lab, but in a plane that does zero gravity parabolas. So it was like, what in the world? Like, where I'm literally sitting in a plane that is doing zero gravity parabolas, performing an experiment that I designed. And so it was just an amazing experience. And that would be my favorite project just because it was in a zero G plane and it was my experiment.
This is definitely the segment of the episode that I'm looking the most forward to. I've heard so much about this experience, but what did it feel like to experience the weightlessness of being in zero gravity?
So when we got in the hangar, they are even on our Zoom calls and things that we had leading up, they tell you it's like swimming and you're gonna start looking like a little frog trying to swim in the air. And they're so right because that's exactly what it felt like. The first parabola, we had a little bit of G's or gravity, so it was lunar. And so we get into lunar, and I'm like trying to do the moon jumps, but it's actually kind of difficult. And when you watch like sci-fi and all those things, and they're like doing lunar jumps, and it's like, oh, just jump around. It was not like that. I would jump and then I'd want to swim, and they're like, no swimming, no swimming, because you're gonna kick somebody. They're all are moving in different directions, and you're trying to kick your feet and move your hands, and so you can't do that. And so it was really fun. The only way I can describe it best is it feels like when you're swimming. So yeah, and it was an amazing experience, and I had so much fun. We played tug of war, which didn't really work all that well because we didn't think about the masses. I'm really pretty short, about 5 foot, and then the person that I did tug of war with, his name was Aaron. Pretty sure he's like at least 6 foot, and so, of course there's a weight difference. So he pulls it, and I go flying into the seats. Yeah, really fun, but also a little bit embarrassing on video.
I can imagine weightlessness definitely has to be a difficult thing to explain. Not many people have experienced it. For your experiment, how did you actually conduct that experiment in the plane? What was your experiment? What was it like? What was your process?
It was a long process, mainly for the on ground portion of it. So I went and did a lot of, I'm trying to think, they called it something. This has been a while. It's basically ground testing. That's the word I'm looking for. So a lot of ground testing. And so to be able to kind of get those moves that I was going to have to do on the zero gravity plane and know exactly the process. My experiment is still set up. I had a radiation chamber because I had to simulate cosmic radiation in a cinch. So I had a few different radioactive samples. They're all safe. They're not gonna like, turn you into like a zombie or something. But I had a little chamber and I had a sensor, and the sensor would click into the chamber in the top. And then I had a mock-up of a spacesuit with me. I didn't end up using that in the zero gravity testing though, but I used a tiny little containment of the gel beads in their absorbed form. And I had the sample and I put the sample in the bottom of the chamber. I put the gel beads into it in the middle of the chamber. I kept it at the same distance. So I had a very consistent experimental data. And then I put the sensor was in the top, and it would tell me how much passed through basically the beads, the polymers. And so with that, I use an app on my phone that would give me the counts. So it'd be like one count of like radiation, I guess. That's the most simple term. And then two counts of radiation, three counts, and however many counts went through. Then I also did one where it was without the bead, so I could see how many would go through just if nothing was in its way. And so from there, I used like comparative results after I got off the plane. But in terms of like what it looked like on the plane, that would kind of be it. I had some Velcro to help me keep it down. And then I had little pockets where I stuck all of the pieces in. And these parabolas are really short. They're like 15 seconds. And 15 seconds is a push. Usually it's like 9, 10. So you have to be really quick and your experiment has to be ready to go. So you have to be able to put the polymer bead sheet into it, get the counts, turn it off, and do it again within that 15 seconds. So very concise experiment is what the word I was looking for. And that's kind of how the process looked like on the plane. I think.
That sounds amazing. And the thought that you did all of this in high school, like that's so inspirational and such an amazing thing that you got to do. Kind of shifting gears a little bit from your internship experiences or from your zero G flight, was there just something that you learned that really stuck with you through all the years?
Biggest thing that I've learned, and this is not even going to be technical, it's going to be more personal, to kind of keep your spirits up and to pursue everything that you do with all of your might. Because when you start to pursue things, oh, I'm just doing this because it's expected of me, or I'm just doing this work because it was tasked, or I only did the bare minimum of this project, you start to like lose all the learning opportunities within the project. And this wouldn't be something I experienced kind of within myself, but more of just experience because I only work with other people all the time too. I mean, space efforts, space exploration, it cannot be an individual thing. So you just kind of can see people around you maybe not putting in as much effort as you would like or as if you would do. And to not look at that and say, oh, because they didn't put that much in, I can do that too. So still push through, even when it feels like you're carrying the weight, or even when it feels like you're doing more than everybody else, because it is noticed and it will be noticed. And that's what opens the doors up to other things that it may not be open to those people who didn't put in 110% effort like you did. And I would say the second biggest lesson with that one too is working with people. You really learn a lot of skills, and I learned so much about how to communicate more effectively, how to work in a team, how to kind of find your place in the team and help other people find their place in the team, how to recognize your skills and how that contributes and how somebody else's skills might contribute, and to really take a second to be able to step back from feeling like you need to be in control, or maybe even stepping into trying to be more in a leading position if you know you knew a lot about that subject, or if you know you weren't the best at knowing this subject. So it's just kind of knowing how to work in the team. And it's not going to be the same every day. You might come in and there be a project and it's, I don't know, find the area of a circle. And you're like, oh, it's been a while since I took a class that did that. I'm going to step back a little bit. And then the next day it might be, find a derivative. And you're like, I took calculus yesterday. I know how to do this. So you step up more. It's just knowing how to move within a team, how to work cohesively and get a task done.
Yeah, I think that's so great, especially the idea of taking initiative. That's something that's so important about working in a team, like kind of knowing your role, knowing your strengths, knowing how those strengths play in with other people's strengths. I know that you mentioned a few times throughout this that you faced imposter syndrome in scenarios that you were in. How did you handle that? What did that look like for you? How did you maintain that confidence in yourself and push through?
The definition of it is like you kind of feel like you don't belong. But to me, it was less more of like I didn't belong, but more of I wasn't good enough or I wasn't as qualified as everybody else. So persevering through that and pushing and trying to be resilient really looked like honing in on what I was good at, understanding that even though this person may have did this thing and this thing and this thing and this thing, and you're like, oh, I only have one thing that I did, but they have five other things that they did. Knowing that if their five things that they did were things that they only gave half into, and then your one thing that you did, you gave the 110% into, then you and them are on the same playing field and you know that you can get the same things that you want. And just because you don't have all five things that they did doesn't mean that your one thing doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean that, you're not as good as everybody else. So for me, the best thing I did was really just reach out for support and to let people know that I was feeling that way and so that I could get the support. And I call it like breathing back in your passion or like breathing back in your determination. And so to go to talk to somebody, and especially I have a few teachers at school that I would talk to, and they would just take the time to sit with me and be like, Londyn, you have done this, have are passionate about this, you're caring, you're kind. And to them, it was really helpful when, yes, they listed out the things that I did, but they also listed out who I was and what parts of me that really stood out to them and that made me an enjoyable person or determined person or, just qualities. Because you're not only your accomplishments or your medals, your goal, all of those different things, your plaques, you're a person with a character and qualities. So it was really helpful for people to breathe that confidence back into me and put a curtain up on the achievements and really bold those characteristics that make me to help me to see that I do these things great. This person does this thing great. It doesn't need to be a comparison. It can be a team.
I love what you said, you're not just your accomplishments. I feel like that's such a big thing to remember, especially in the world that we're growing up in right now. Everything is super centralized around your accomplishments, what you've done, or stuff like that. So I think it's so important to remember what you said. You are a person at the end of the day. You have all these qualities that make you desirable on a team and make you really belong in that environment that you're working in. We've talked a lot about what you've done in high school and everything, but you're going to college this fall. What made you choose UT Austin specifically?
UT Austin has a really good aerospace engineering program and a lot of opportunities. And then even outside of engineering, even outside of anything technical, the city is vibrant and it has a lot of places for creativity to grow, a lot of, easy to get around the campus, easy to get around the city, and very diverse. I love that Austin is diverse and the school is diverse, diverse in every aspect, not just color, but diverse in people, diverse in ideas, diverse in stances. Just you meet all types of people there, and even people from different states, even though it's mainly Texas. But you meet just a lot of different people, and it's not a college where there's only a kind of a certain type of people. So I really liked its vibrance, and I was drawn to that. And UT Austin does a really good job at supporting your ability to go to school financially. And that was something that I really was passionate about and knew that I was looking for, aid to go to school, to be able to go and not be burdened by the weight of, how much school is nowadays. And so UT Austin does a great job at awarding academics and awarding wherever you stand financially to be able to get you to campus and to get you to be able to enjoy the experience of college without burdened by all of the financials that you may feel like financial strains. So that would be a couple reasons why I chose that school. Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. I had the opportunity to visit UT recently, and I'm so excited for you because the school, the community, the culture, everything there, everything I've heard, especially their aerospace sector, it sounds amazing. But what are you the most excited about exploring in your undergrad program in aerospace?
Research. I've been out of research for a little bit. The last time I did research would be my zero G project, where I went to science fair with it. So that was like an extra thing that I did. I competed in the regional level and the state level, but it's been a while since I've conducted or performed research, did some experimental things. So I'm very much looking forward to getting back in the lab, especially coming back to my roots in the Center for Space Research being right down the street. So I'm hoping to definitely get in with some of the faculty there and get to work on some of the things that they're currently looking at. So that would probably be what I'm definitely looking forward to aerospace wise at UT.
So where do you see yourself 5 or 10 years from now? Do you think you'll be working in the industry or research, or is that still kind of wide open?
Years from now, I'm definitely going to go to grad school. I totally want to have that second degree. I will graduate from UT hopefully in 2029. And then after that, I'm going to go to grad school. Don't know where yet, but I am going to go straight to grad school. So that's 5 year. And then 10 years from now, I hope to be in industry by then. I should be 34 years out of grad. And company wise, I don't really know yet because it's definitely going to be somewhere in the space exploration world. So some of the companies that are helping us get there, where exactly, I don't know. I thought it used to be black and white, like NASA, SpaceX, but there are a lot of different places that help the space exploration. You have Lockheed, you have NASA, Boeing, of course, SpaceX, Department of Defense, a lot of the military, just a lot of places you can go. And I don't really know exactly where I'm going to go with that yet, but I do know I want to be in industry and I'm starting to apply to be an astronaut probably in that 10th year. So fingers crossed. I look back at this in 10 years and I'm like, oh my gosh, you predicted it. So
Yeah, and we have so much going on right now in the space industry in terms of goals that there are for space exploration. So, so many opportunities for you to be an astronaut.
yes, fingers crossed.
And so, as we're kind of closing off, is there anything that you wish that people knew about aerospace or anything you wish people understood about aerospace that you didn't necessarily know going into it?
I'm going to answer this from an industry perspective instead of like well, industry aerospace, but more on the industry side. Now that I've been through high school, I also had an aerospace class in high school. And so I got to kind of see what the industry looked like for aerospace on the other side. And it definitely doesn't reflect as much as you thought it would in terms of what you learn in the like classroom of how it looks like. In the classroom, it's like you're going to be building, you're going to be like there, you're going to be able to do every sector of the building the rocket, like you're going to be able to draw it out. Then you're going to be able to like go print the design, put it together, and then get on it and, launch it. So that's not how industry works. Industry is a team and everybody works toward this effort and it's really hard for you to be from beginning to end. So one of the things that I would advise people and then tell, let them know, because this is a big shock to me when I got in the industry and I was like, okay, guys, where's the helicopter? Where's the preliminary designs? Yeah, no, I was not doing any of that. I was testing a single part of it for stress to see like, when is this thing going to break? And so there's so many pieces that go into building something on such a large scale. So if you can kind of start to identify now what part of this do you like the most, I'm kind of trying to burst the bubble that you're going to be doing everything because you won't. It's really, unless you're at a smaller company, but usually at these larger companies, you're more tailored into one thing. Do you like propulsion more? Do you like landing gear more? What part of it do you like? And to kind of start identifying that, like now, or even just thinking about it and kind of getting to the habits of knowing that in aerospace and industry, you're not going to be working with the whole process of it. And you may get to jump around from team to team, but it's really rare that you get to see everything. So just kind of identifying where in that building process or where in that design process that you really like and kind of starting to meet like hone in on your skills in that way.
Have you found that area of niche yet, or are you still exploring?
Not yet. Still exploring, still exploring.
Yeah, you've got time. You've got college, grad school, so even in the industry. And finally, if you could go back and give advice to your younger self, maybe when you were starting out or even more recently, what would you tell yourself?
I would go back to a specific time, and this would be in freshman year of high school. I had the ability to kind of choose where I was going to high school because in my home district, STEM wasn't very prominent. And so I knew I wanted to be somewhere else that had a lot more prominent STEM. And so I took the time to find schools that had open enrollment. And one of those was my STEM Academy that I graduated from, and then a few other different schools. And so I chose my STEM Academy. But the first year and half of the second year, I was like, I don't think I made the right decision. Every day of going to school was, did I make the right decision? I had a hard time making friends. I had a hard time getting integrated into the school. It was a whole new district, which was really difficult in itself because a lot of people knew each other. And I had friends, but it was hard to like, have a group. Um, and feel like I knew where I stood in the school. And so one of the biggest pieces of advice I would give to London at that time was to embrace the ambiguity and give the change its time because that was the first time that I ever had to see something through for that long. Like I said, a year and a half is a long time, especially when you're that young, to be feeling like every day you're coming to school and you don't know where you stand. Knowing what I know now, being on the other side of that uncertainty, I'm so glad that I stuck it through at this school and I didn't switch back to my home district out of fear of it never getting better because you have to give things its full opportunity. And especially as you're about to graduate and getting into, more of the, I guess, quote unquote, real world, when you're in high school and in middle school and things of that, things come rather quickly. And, a month to month basis, you'll start seeing change. But as you get into further in your life, they're not as quick anymore. And you really have to see it through. And of course, there are going to be times where that's not the case. But right now, especially in my formative years in my life, I'm learning more to give things the time that they need. And that time doesn't just look like 30 days, 40 days. It looks like 2, 3, 4, 5+ months of watching and waiting and putting an effort into something and waiting for it to sprout and really take its roots. So I would definitely just tell her those things. Give it its time and to keep putting that same effort that you were putting in every day.
Think that's such a powerful message and something that so many of us struggle with is just, sometimes you're in a position, you're in a space when things look like they're not working out how you had perfectly envisioned it. And I think sticking through with it and really staying persistent is so important because at the end of the day, you will see results. They might not be in the exact form that you had predicted, but you will see results and your hard work will pay off. So seeing where you are now, that's so amazing that you're able to stick with that and really pursue all those things that you were passionate about.
Yeah, I would say I would highlight that thing that you said was stay persistent because you can stick it out, but you have to keep doing the work as you're sticking it out. If you just, let go and are like, let time do its thing, time is not going to do its thing. Time needs time and it needs your effort. So stay persistent. That was a good one. Yeah.
Well, I really appreciate you taking this time to talk. It's been so inspirational to hear everything you've had to say and hear the things you've done before even stepping foot into your undergrad journey. So I know that hearing these things you've done will help so many people find their place in STEM. Thank you so much and good luck in everything that you're going to pursue in the future.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me. It was an honor to be here. Like I said, if you would have told little freshman London that she'd be telling people her story and that everybody at Seeds from now on would know who she is and what she's done, I'd be like, what? Like that? That's not true. But yeah, so I'm very honored to be here and to hopefully reach some people. Then they can hear my story.
That wraps up our conversation with Londyn Franklin. Hearing her journey reminds all of us that persistence, curiosity, and hard work really does pay off. If Londyn's story inspired you today, take some time to reflect on how you can apply that same mindset in your own path. Thank you so much for listening to the She Persists podcast, and we'll see you next time.